I am black and beautiful. O daughters of Jerusalem. So now she's addressing the daughters of Jerusalem. Like the tents of darkness, like the curtains of Shlomo. Do not see me that I am blackened, for the sun has scorched me. The sons of my mother have caused anger against me. They placed me as a guard over the vineyards. My vineyard I did not guard. What does it mean I'm black? What does it mean I'm beautiful? She's trying to get away from the blackness. We're not saying anything that if a person has dark skin that there's anything wrong with that. That is not what's being said over here at all. Please don't understand it that way. What she means is that my dark appearance is on account of whatever her complexion might be. It doesn't matter. But more than my natural complexion, I have been further darkened. Something happened to me that caused me to become scorched. So I am black, but this conjunction of doesn't have to mean and in Hebrew. It could also mean but. I'm black, but I'm truly beautiful. Who's she speaking to? The daughters of Jerusalem. The daughters of Jerusalem are the nations of the world. God has promised the Jewish people that ultimately when God's kingdom is restored to the earth, the nations also come to Jerusalem to serve God. These are the daughters of Jerusalem. They're being called after what will be in the future. And she says, even though I look bad now, I'm not bad. I'm actually really good. Like the tents of darkness. What are the tents of darkness? Tents that are spread out and they get rained on. We know all about this in Seattle. What happens? They become dark. They get blackened. They get like mold. The fabric isn't black, but because of the elements, because of outside and external effects and events and circumstances, they become black. What happens with that? You can bleach it clean. You can get those stains out. And when you get those stains out, it will be like the curtains of Shlomo, meaning like the curtains of the temple. They're beautiful. They're gorgeous. They're designer. They're made of the finest materials and colors and designs. That's who I really am. I'm beautiful. It's just that I've been covered by a blackness. Underneath it all, I'm really sterling. I'm sparkling. So don't see me that I'm black. I've just been scorched by the sun. The sons of my mother caused this to happen to me. Who are the sons of my mother? The mother of the Jewish nation is Egypt, because that's where the Jewish nation incubated. Yaakov and his family came down as a small group. They grew and they multiplied and they multiplied. Like a fetus in the womb starts as a small clump of cells, really just one, turns into a clump, multiplies, till it grows limbs and a whole respiratory system and a vasculatory system. And it grows into a full-grown being that eventually comes out, it emerges, and it goes independent. That was my story, says Israel. I was birthed from Mother Egypt. The sons of my mother, those are the Egyptians. They did this to me. It was the influence of the idol worshippers in Egypt, among who I grew up, that I learned bad habits and I learned idolatry, and that I actually committed idolatry at Mount Sinai, the sin of the golden calf. We were blackened by that. And the nations are looking and saying, oh, you think you're so special, Jews? Look at you, look how you misbehave. And they're saying, look, I know how it looks, but really underneath it all, I'm really very pure. And it was just the influence of foreign ideologies that caused me to stray so far from who I really am. They set me as guarding the vineyards. The vineyards here being the worship of other gods. They made me observe and keep their religious practices. My own vineyard, my own God, I didn't guard. I abandoned my God and I went after their God. Please don't see me for what you see on the outside. Know that underneath it all, I'm really pure and I'm really good. I really have very fine features. If I could just cast off these external blemishes, you would see who I really am. And it's truly great.
I want to give all the praises and the honor to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Arecha HaKodash, and double honors to the elder apostles and even the elder bishops of Great Millstone. Honors and salute as well to you other elders scattered abroad with the flock of the brethren, and you few sisters, you followers of the truth, also of Great Millstone, through the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And shalom to the elect. Okay, so this video was kind of hard to get through as I listened to some things this rabbi said. I don't know, it was a couple things, Isaiah 49, then he said something about she was black, but it was kind of like a curse because she was really silver under it or something like that. I'm not even going to go back and watch it. I just wanted the video to end so I can start my commentary, right? So anyway, he says in Song of Solomon 1 and 5, it says, my skin is black upon me, O daughters of Jerusalem. And he said the daughters of Jerusalem was the other nations. And he showed the pictures of the UN or whatever and the other nations. I was like, what? But this is what he said, right? Now, the daughters of Jerusalem, you do have, when you look at these words, it will say daughter, and okay, you could say women. You know, we know women can be daughters. But let's read a little commentary real quick. I am black. We already know the commentaries. Commentators ain't going to say anything that, you know, would be in the truth when it comes to stuff like this. But I want to hit a few points. Now, first of all, it was well known that the Israelites were so-called black. It's well known the Messiah is so-called black. The reason why his depiction was given, because there was no real need to do that because of the unique complexion that he had. You know, being burned, almost like so-called black people can get burnt too. When you see the word black or white, it doesn't always mean color. It can mean suffering and it can mean purity. But so when we go to Job, I'm going to come back. I want to, you know, this made me jump to this. So when we go to Job 30 and 30, it says, my skin is black upon me. Now the other translation says, my skin turned black, meaning that it wasn't black before. But the translation, you know, some translation says, like the KJV says, my skin is black upon me. Right? So I've never seen anybody white turn black. So I don't know what kind of ash they had on them to peel the skin and it turn black and fall on the ground. Never heard of it, never seen it. And if anybody's the so-called white turn that black and their skin is falling on the ground, well, they don't have long to live. Let's put it that way. So I don't know where their definition of black is going into. But the fact is, the suffering part, you turn darker, you know, and only so-called black, because nobody's black, only so-called black people can turn black. I've never seen nobody white turn black. They had these rabbis and these Christians and apologists, they have displayed this part to me. Did they go into soot, right? Did they go into a volcano? And then it says right here, my skin is black upon me, and my bones are burnt with heat. It says burnt with fever. Some translations say that. So we can see this is going into a form of lamenting, you know, suffering. My bones are burned with heat. But nobody white does that. Right? So let's go back to the commentary. And it says, O ye daughters, it says here, by which he understands particular believers who Mother Jerusalem is called, and it says Galatians 4 and 6, which is Jerusalem, which is above is free, which is the mother of us all, right? So it's kind of crazy how they just take it and twist it and make it fit the narrative. This is all they've ever done, and it was cool with them to do that. But when we woke up and start bringing out the facts, bringing out the history, bringing out the literature and the truth, now we're twisting it. No, we're not. Yes, we are twisting it. We're twisting it back. See, when you take an arrow, the younger brother brought this out, when you take a hanger and you bend it and you try to straighten it back, it never comes back to the natural form that it was. And this is what you've done to the children of Israel. You've bent us and twisted us to the fact that our whole nation can never be whole again until the Lord comes and refine us and redo it, right? As Hebrews 8 says, and redo everything and bring us back to our heritage and our nationality. So we're going to prove more in that the Messiah was so-called black. The Israelites were so-called black. I don't think they thought that we were smart enough to do the further research to prove differently. And I'll say out of One West when it comes to certain things like this. And some other Israelites, not going to take that away from some other ones who are doing that. But anyway, we're going to go to Song of Solomon 1 and 5 to show you the differences, and then we'll go back, I guess. I'll read some comments that was on that actual video. It says, where I'm at, Song of Solomon 1 and 5. Then it goes on to say, look not upon me because I'm black, because the sun have looked upon me. So again, we can clearly see that nobody white that this would happen to. Okay? I'm going to jump down to the 8th verse? It goes on down to say, thy cheeks are comely and rows of jewels. Now everybody, because of white supremacy, they look at everything, and thy neck is with chains of gold. So now we have white supremacy trying to put in the rows of jewels. That's why they show those jewels as red. But you know that jewels were dark as well. You had different colored jewels. Then it says, thy neck with chains of gold. We're going to get in there too. But let's go to, in fact, let me go there now. We're going to read the Bible in the 1300s, what it says. It says, thy cheeks and thy necks is beautifully as the turtle, right? And hanged with sponges and goodly jewels. Now, when you look at what you call the beautiful turtle, I actually looked this up. It's actually a brownish, dark brownish color. And we're not making this up. It just takes a little going into and seeing. Right? Now, we do know animals, they have to have some form of melanin or color or protection from the sun. The chlorophyll in plants, the animals with the fur and the hair. There's no way the Most High sent his people here under that form of look. You see what happened to Miriam when she was cursed leprous? When they saw that, yeah, she really would have looked white because you didn't see that before. Right? But before I go on, there's another thing he said, that the daughters of Jerusalem, and they will all come over and worship. This is the scripture that they read, but they won't read on, right? This is Isaiah 49:22. Thus saith the Lord, behold, I will lift up my hand to the Gentiles and set them up my standard to the people, and thou shalt bring thy sons in thy arms, and thy daughters shall be carried upon thy shoulders, their shoulders, right? This is where they stop. They don't never read. I've seen a couple of these people read this scripture. And I say, why don't they read the 23rd verse? It said, kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers. They shall bow down to thee with their face toward the earth, and lick up the dust of thy feet. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord, for they shall all not be ashamed that wait for me. So, shall the prey be taken from the mighty, or the lawful captive delivered? This is why they're scared, right? This is where there's a problem. Because we could see that this was a total hijack takeover. This is us. This is talking about us. So when we bring out this scripture, I'm not saying this talking about us where we're going to be bowing down. It's going to be the total opposite way. But when we read this scripture, we become this angry group. Right? But they read it. It's all acceptable. And that's another thing I got out of that. We could see. We can see what they do, man. So, we're going to go to Exodus 8 and 25. This video was titled, Are the Israelites Black? I noticed there was one black woman in there. I don't think they showed any so-called black men. And all the characters in the video was white. And then what they'll do is play some dramatic music to make it seem like they're sympathetic towards us. That's to keep the hooked simps or the KOONs in place. To say, no, we don't have nothing against you. Just remember, you belong to us. And when you really think about the curses to these people, the curses stopped when they got in that place that they're in 48. That's when the curses stopped for everybody. Because if you really think about it, the curses are still here today. And if the curses are here today by process of elimination, we would fit those curses. But they can't have that. So then they got to put the anti this and the anti that. Let's support the NAACP so we can say we did this. So they can't come to us and say, look, you're doing that. That's the best way I could say it. Anyway, when you look up this, let's go to Numbers 25 and 7. And when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, saw it, he rose up from among the congregation and took a javelin in his hand. And he went after the man of Israel into the tent and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel. When you read the story, it wasn't because he was just with the heathen woman. It's because he started following the practices of the heathen woman, right? But that's another video. So we're going to go into what the word Phinehas means. So we know Phinehas is the son of Eleazar, right? Who is the son of Aaron. So Phinehas is the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, which would be Aaron's grandson, right? So when we go and look at this word Phinehas, it actually means the mouth of brass. Now, hold that thought for a second. The mouth of brass. Eleazar, grandson of Aaron, right? The Lord of the everlasting priesthood and his family. So when we go on down here and read, it says a variation, mouth of serpent, Phinehas, the name of 3 Israelites, Phinehas. Goes on down here, it says the Egyptian, the Negro. They called him actually the black Nubian. That's what they called him. So some scholars say the Egyptian Negro. Now, this is also in the Oxford Dictionary. That's how I found out originally. So then you'll see that. So we see here the mouth of brass. So now we're going to go to just hold on to that. So we're going to go to the comments of this video. And this is what I got out of this video, comments. Thank you for the information. Nope, inaccurate. Prove it with scripture and records. No whites in Egypt at that time. Mizraim, son of Ham. Okay, the rabbi left a couple of comments. But this is the one I want to get to. Somebody says, bless my people, right? See, these are only people that are allowed to be like this. We can't say bless our people, right? It says they were olive skins. You see that crap they made up? Olive is red, olive is green, and olive is black. And they damn sure wasn't red, right? They were not dark Cushites, right? We never said the Israelites were dark Cushites. You see how they used that sickness? It had nothing to do with skin color. And on here, let's see what it keeps says. However you want to prove it with scripture, fine. Head of hair, white like wool. See? Jesus had a white head since he was an Ashkenazi Jew. This is what they said. So, they don't even know where Ashkenazi came from. They have no idea as far as that name. That name was an adopted name from a particular place. But that's another video. I did a video on that already. You'll see it because they'll say, see, he came out of Japhet. That's what that divine prospect says. Nah, see, they don't understand that people take on other heritages and nationalities of other people, or at least the practices. But let's go to Revelation 1 and 15, right? When it said his feet like unto fine brass. Now that's where I want to go at. Because right here, right, with Eleazar, it calls him the mouth of brass, which means an Egyptian Negro, right? It just says Negro, but they call him Phinehas the Egyptian Negro, which means black. We all know fine brass is not technically gold. That was another made up myth or concept. So when you read the commentaries, or let me say you read the definition of the brass, it goes to gold. It says gold. Right here it does says burnt copper, but then it says alloy copper of gold and silver. See how they're confusing it? A luster of fine brass. And then implied mean of whiteness or brilliance. Well, whiteness doesn't have anything to do with color in some cases. It just means pure. Because it goes on to say burnished copper. Now, when you go into the original text of the 1300s, the older Bibles, it has said his feet like a lantern chimney, a lantern burnt chimney. So this sums up the whole lesson, because when it says I'm black or my skin is black or so forth and so on, I'm a so-called black person, but if I get burnt or I go through a suffering, well, I get darker. It had nothing to do with somebody being white and then all of a sudden turning black. And this is what they're trying to do to keep that white supremacy rolling, moving on. And this is why this person said his head was white. Nobody's head is white. But his hair is the pure wool, right? His head is the pure wool. His feet is the fine brass, but his head was white. Does that make any sense? He looked like a white man, but he had woolly hair. Real wool, by the way. But then he had black feet. So this was a discolored man? Oh, boy. Let me go up to the other verse. His head and his hairs, right? His head and his hairs. The head, what they talking about is the hair on his head. And his hairs is his facial, right? That's what they called hairs. That's Old English. Where white likened unto war when you read the old text. It was all kind of parabolic, but it was always describing it. This is vocab and them saying, see, how can they flip it on and off? No, his head and his hairs weren't wool. They were likened unto wool. And then it says, and as white as snow. No, his hair wasn't snow. It was white as snow. And his eyes was a flame of fire. It wasn't a flame of fire. It was red. And his feet likened unto fine brass. It says like, but the original terminology was likened unto, right? Fine brass. When you look at fine brass, it's actually dark. This brings me back to when she said, when you go to the original text, she said her cheeks was like a beautiful turtle, right? As if they burned, past tense, in a furnace. There's nobody that would glow, and this is another myth, because they didn't say likened of burning in the furnace. Other translations may say that. But if you took anything and it burned in the furnace and glowed, nobody looks like that. Even if you make it a metaphor, nobody looks like some shining glow. But now there are some athletes, like they used to say Michael Jordan looked like he glowed. And because he had, when you really look at it, he had that complexion and he had that aura, right? Nowhere near comparing him to the men of the Lord. I'm just saying. That's how people perceive them. And his feet likened unto fine brass if they burned in the furnace. And his voice as the sound of many waters. No, his voice wasn't waters, but it was the sound of many waters, right? His voice wasn't the sound of waters, but it was as likened of the sound of many waters. You get the point. So, yeah, just trying to keep that supremacy going, man. But it's failed. That's all I have on that. Shalom.